This episode of Baking Day is brought to you by LG Canada. We'll be hearing more from them later in the episode. Hello everyone and welcome to Baking Day. My favorite kind of day, honestly, especially when it's holiday time. Now I have a fantastic recipe for you. This is a sweet treat that could go into your cookie tin, but I'm even going to show you how to serve it as a plated dessert. The recipe? My salted toffee and spice blondies. Oh, they are over the top. And in addition to that recipe, I'm gonna throw in some little holiday gifts with bonus recipes throughout this bake. So let's get started by getting ourselves ready. The first thing you want to do is preheat your oven to 350 Fahrenheit or 180 Celsius. I bake my blondies in a 9-inch square pan. First, I grease the pan lightly, but I don't stop there. I like to line my pans with parchment paper. Outside of the fact that it makes for easier cleanup, it's also easier to lift the squares out of the pan onto your cutting board. Now, to line your pan easily and quickly without using too much parchment paper, I have a great trick. So take your square of parchment paper, fold it into quarters. Oh, my oven's preheated. And then just take a pair of scissors and where you have your open corner to your square, cut in at a 45-degree angle. And then you drop this into your pan, and where you cut overlaps. This helps prevent anything from leaking underneath your parchment paper, and you've got a perfectly lined pan. Okay, so now we're ready to start baking. I love this recipe because it's a one-bowl wonder. I'll start by adding my light brown sugar to the bowl. If you have dark brown sugar, that is absolutely fine. A blondie is essentially very much like a brownie, except without the chocolate in the batter itself. I am sneaking a little chocolate, though, into the recipe. I've already melted my butter. And it's okay with this recipe if your butter is still warm. So whether stovetop or microwave, it gets the job done. And I'll first give this a little whisk. You'll find that the brown sugar won't dissolve into the butter. But basically, I'm just cooling the butter down a little bit before I add my egg and my vanilla. Single egg. And because blondies don't have that oomph of lots of chocolate like a brownie, you need to add flavor in other ways. So I call for a full 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. All right, now it's time to add the dry ingredients, but how about a little holiday gift? Part of enjoying baking over the holiday season is taking care of little tasks ahead of time, those flavor builders and add-ons that make the holiday special, but you make them when you have time. So when things get a little rushed, well, you are all set. What I'd like to show you is a customized holiday spice blend. You know the spices you love over the holiday season, cinnamon and ginger and clove and allspice and nutmeg. But instead of pulling out 5 different tins when you're trying to get a bake into the oven, why not pre-mix, customize to what you like? You're going to love this holiday spice blend. I've got 4 spices, but of course, if you decide you want to add or take away to it, I leave that up to you. That way, you can call it your own holiday spice blend. I find cinnamon needs to be the dominant flavor. So I've got 2 tablespoons of cinnamon, and then 2 teaspoons each of ground ginger, nutmeg, and allspice. I'm not adding clove to this recipe, even though I like cloves in many holiday baked goods, but not all of them. I can always add a pinch of clove later on. So in goes the ginger, nutmeg, and allspice. And then you can store this in a jar where you store all your other spices, which always should be stored in a cool, dark place. Even though it's handy to store your spices right next to your stove or range, it's actually better to store them away from it. Okay, so back to our blondie base. I've got my flour already measured, and that goes in at once. And like brownies, blondies are dense, so you don't have to worry about sifting your ingredients. I will measure 1.5 teaspoons of my holiday spice blend into the batter. So you've got that combination of the butter and brown sugar with the spices. I add just a little baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon, and I add a teaspoon of fine sea salt because these are salted toffee and spice blondies. So I want to work some salt into the batter, but I will put some on top of the blondies too. Because blondies are so sweet, the salt really helps to balance the flavor. It makes it so palatable. So in that goes. This is one of those recipes that's so easy to make with the kids. This is another point where you can customize your blondies. You've got a foundation batter that you know is going to be delicious. Now, it's up to you what to add. I want to lean towards toffee to go with the salt. So I've got toffee bits. These are hard toffee bits, so you don't want to use a softer caramel style. You could add caramel chips if you wanted to, or take hard toffee and blitz it in the food processor. And I am also adding some white chocolate chips. But feel free between the volume of the toffee bits and the chocolate chips to add whatever you want. Maybe it's dark chocolate. Maybe it is some toasted walnut pieces or almonds, or I don't know that candy canes would actually fit in, but get creative. Again, this is one of those recipes the kids would absolutely love. Just a quick stir to combine everything, and it's ready to go in the pan. And you just have to press it flat. You don't have to be so precise about leveling because the batter will melt as it bakes. Now before these go into the oven, the finishing touch. I've got flaked sea salt to sprinkle on top. You could use fleur de sel, which is a granular but crunchy fine sea salt. Either style will work. You don't want to use just regular table salt because of the way the flaked salt is, it's a little less salty by its bite, but it adds that just subtle crunch and again, that balance against the sweetness of the blondies. There we go, a nice little sprinkle. The blondies are now ready for the oven and they'll take about 30 minutes to bake. You'll see that they turn kind of light golden brown around the outside edge and the surface of them almost looks like a chocolate chip cookie. While the blondies bake, we'll take a moment to hear from our sponsor, and you have to come back because I've got another holiday bonus recipe for you and some extra elements that will turn these blondies into a plated dessert. This recipe is brought to you by LG Canada, featuring the versatile LG Pro Bake Convection Slide-In Range. Perfectly cook your favorite crispy recipes, including wings, fries, and other family favorites in one oven with LG's built-in large capacity air fryer. The air fry setting circulates hot air at high speeds for an even cook every time. You can also count on LG's Pro Bake Convection setting to deliver precise heat, which is especially important in multi-rack baking. Because the element is at the back of the oven and not the bottom, air is distributed evenly to all racks. This means your cookies, appetizers, and more will be evenly and perfectly cooked every time. This range also has an air sous vide setting. With its low and consistent heat to lock in flavors, you can slowly and gently cook vacuum-sealed foods or other slow-cooked recipes. Keep an eye on your baking and cooking and keep the heat inside with the InstaView door. 2 quick knocks on the door lights up the oven so you can check on the progress without letting out heat. Bring the sleek design of the LG Pro Bake Convection slide-in range to your kitchen. Well, my blondies are out of the oven and I've let them cool to room temperature. Don't they look amazing? You can see that sort of satiny top to the top of them and the little flakes of sea salt and the white chocolate chips. Oh, now if you're cutting these up for your cookie tin, you just pop it right out, cut it into little squares, pack them, and they'll stay fresh for days and days and days. Or if you want, you can make this ahead, wrap it whole, or even cut into squares and pop them in the freezer. Now, I'm going to show you how to turn these salted toffee and spice blondies into a plated dessert, which means it's time for another holiday flavor gift. Let's make some maple roasted pecans. So, to make them, the first thing I do is set the oven to 400 degrees. And I have 1 cup of pecan halves here, and I'll add to that 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. And you might be thinking, well, could I use honey instead? Yes, you could. The honey stays a little sticky, but the maple syrup, well, it bakes on dry, so these pecans become super crunchy. Just a quick stir. And if you knew you wanted to make these maple pecans for something sweet, like maybe your holiday brunch or to sprinkle on top of a cheesecake, well, you can add in half a teaspoon of that holiday spice blend. Want to turn them a little savory? Just a little bit of black pepper adds a perfect sparkle, making these pecans ideal for salads or a cheese board. So simple, and it makes a great host gift too. So you want to spread these in a single layer. And these take about 15 minutes to bake. You will see that coming out of the oven, the maple syrup still looks like it's fluid, but as it cools, it will set onto the pecans. Once your pecans have cooled, they really do set up. And it's just that light coating of maple sweetness that makes these so good. You can pack these in an airtight container or a pretty jar for gift giving if you want, and they keep for weeks, honestly. We've got the blondies, I've got some crunchy maple pecans. I want to add a little cream. As a finishing touch, a dollop of spiced whipped cream will really bring these blondies together as a plated dessert. I've just added a little bit of icing sugar to my whipped cream, and I'm going to make use of that holiday spice blend. Just a little sprinkling. How decadent. And that's what the holiday season is all about, those little extra treats. So now I'll lift my toffee bars out. Aha, now you see why you line your pans with parchment. That makes it so easy to remove from the pan. Makes the pan easy to clean up too. If I was portioning my blondies for a cookie tin, obviously I'd make them tiny 1-inch squares, but I want to make a larger portion as my plated dessert. And I don't trim away the end pieces. I find they're so delicious. They get a little crispier and then it contrasts with the soft on the inside. Ooh. If you didn't want to do the whipped cream, a good scoop of vanilla ice cream would go far too. And there you have it, a great holiday addition for your cookie tin, my salted toffee and spice blondies. And on top of that, you can turn it into a plated dessert. So make that holiday spice blend. Get those maple pecans in the oven, make these delicious blondies and have yourself a happy holiday season. I love a holiday baking day. They really are my favorite.